Now, the way we style the form elements is using an attribute selector. So each of the inputs, there's an input here, and they each have a type. So this is an input type text, and that gives you the text box. There's also, I'm using an input type email here. I'm using an input type tel for a telephone number. So for the input types, we can style them via their attributes. And let me show you how to do that. So I'm going to show you with one first. So it takes this format. I'm looking for an input. Note that there's no period or anything because this is an element. It is not, there is no class assigned to this. So my input, and this is the type, and it goes, that's called the attribute that goes along with the input. So input type text, note that there are no quotation marks needed. And then we can put our declarations in here, our style declarations. We're going to start with width and height. And I'm just going to save that, and we're going to take a look just right off the bat on that one. Okay, so first name and last name are input type text. Email and phone are not. Email, the email box is an email type, and the phone is a tel, T-E-L type. So we need to put those into our input definition as well. And since they all look the same, we're going to style them all the same. And since we're going to style them all the same, they can go in a line. Okay. So now these are the right width. We want message to be that same width as well. So message is a text area, so we can put that in there. Okay. Now we are going to have to do something else with the text area to make its height different, but we'll do that in a separate declaration. For now, we're going to finish styling these. I want to get, let's take a look. We have some rounded corners. There is a border on each of these at the top and bottom. You can't really see it too much when you're not highlighted over it, but there is a hover border that comes up too. If you see real carefully, there's a red highlighting border when I mouse over it. And there's some margin and some padding that we need to put in as well. We'll put in the borders first. So in this particular case, I'm taking border top and left with a light gray, and right and bottom with EE. Now let's go ahead and see. I think that's a gray as well, but let's go ahead and see what color that is. So if I just start typing, yeah, it's a really light gray, which is why you're not seeing it very well. And the CCC is a little tiny bit darker. So this is my anal retentive designer coming out here. There's no reason why they couldn't all be the same color. But this is to show you that you can do different colors on each side of a border, and sometimes that works pretty well in this sort of situation. It's just adding a little tiny bit of depth to the box. So take a look at the box right now, and it's very, very subtle, very hard to see, and you could probably argue that you don't even really need it on there. But I'm going to leave it for now. If you do your own form, there's no reason why you have to put that sort of thing in there. We're going to, next we need to do the radius, the border radius. This is one of those cases where we need both the prefixes for WebKit and Firefox. So we actually put this particular declaration in 3 times. They all need to have the same value. Because some browsers do not recognize border radius, there's not complete acceptance for it. We put in the specifics towards certain browsers that might have problems with it. And then the rest of what needs to go in here is the margin, which is going to be 10 pixels top and bottom, padding at 4 pixels to give it a little bit extra space inside, and they're all floating left. So now they're looking a lot more like what we did over here. Okay. Now I said that we needed to change the text area and make it taller. So I can have text area here and down here, and basically what that's doing is up here it's setting all of these parameters. Down here it's changing just the ones we need to change. There's no reason that we have to have that float left in there. And indeed, I really don't think that we needed any of these because we're already floating here. So I'm just going to take it out of there. So the height of the text area is going to be 100 pixels. This resize means, see this handle here allows the user to resize that box. If we set resize to none, it shouldn't allow me to do that anymore. And in fact, it took that little handle off of there, and I can't resize it anymore. Up to you whether you have it be able to be resized. If you want it to be resizable, you can not put that code in. Problem is then it goes side to side as well. So you just need to decide how much control you want over what the user is doing. And I'm going to go ahead and put that back in. Okay, now we had a mouse over, or a hover. And what that hover is doing is when I go over it, it shows me which box I'm on when I'm hovering over them. Okay, so that is, you can put a hover on any element you want. It doesn't have to be just an A tag. So in this case, we're going to put the hover on all of my input types. The easiest thing for you to do will be to copy this, put it down here, but you then need to put the colon and hover. So I have input type equals tell colon hover, or text on that first one. And we're going to put in our definitions there. Basically, all I want to do is to have the border color change. And so I'm going to just put in border color, and this is that red color. Let's go over here and look and see what happens. And I'm getting that little bit of a highlighting when I go over it. I'm going to take this very same thing and copy it. I'm going to paste it in again, and then I'm going to change these hovers to focus. Hover is when you mouse over something and you hold your mouse over it. Focus is when you tab through something. So if you're just using your keyboard instead of your mouse, it's still going to do the same color change. So let's take a look at what that did. And so now we get that little bit of a red border on there when we mouse over it. And if we click through it, I'm clicking in it, hitting tab, then you get the same little tiny bit of a border going on there. Now if you look really, I don't know if you can see this, but if you look really, if I look very carefully on that, I'm also seeing a blue outline around the edge of that box, and that's being put on there by the browser. So to get rid of that, we're going to come back in here and say outline, whoops, 0. And we'll see if that got rid of it. And it did. In order to see that effect, you'll probably want to go ahead and take a look at it on your own browser as you type that in. So before you put in outline 0, mouse over it and see what it's doing. Putting that in took that particular feature of the browser out.